Look, you're wasting our time. You're not gonna get us to not believe in evolution.
And why is that?
Because the smartest scientists in the entire world all agree that it's real.
I'm glad you brought that up. Because, Mr. Reynolds, science is a liar sometimes.
So Glenn was sitting at a stoplight and eating this bowl of cereal, and somebody rear ends him, and the cereal flies everywhere. And he was, of course, reasonably upset with the person that rear-ended him, but then he's telling the story to a room full of television writers. So we can't get past the fact that he's eating a bowl of cereal while he's driving his car. And then he's upset that he's got cereal all over the car. Knowing Glenn, it was definitely some kind of sugar-free, like it's probably some kind of food made for animals. So we just right there wrote that into an episode. And we loved that he had a defense for it. And then we started talking about, like, why don't we do an episode where he goes on trial for something like this, and then it just continues to snowball into various subjects of what should be tried, including just the truth and or reality. And so we just had this idea that maybe a really dumb person, Mac, could make an actually interesting sort of salient point, but in a really dumb way. And so we came up with this phrase that science is a liar sometimes. Again, that's an interesting point brought up by a moron who can't really express himself in the way that a person would need to express themselves to make that a legitimate argument.
He was also wrong, making him and everyone else on Earth look like a bitch again.
Dude, please give me a chip.
You're not getting a chip, okay?
Come on!
Leave it alone with the chips. If you want a chip, you could have gotten a bag at the hamburger store. Don't ask me that!
I can't listen to this shit.
That was improvised. In fact, that entire sequence was not in the script. We were just stuck in the van, Charlie and I. I mean, I was morbidly obese in that season, and we just had this bag of chips. And Charlie was like, just eat the chips. Just keep eating the chips. Just keep eating the chips through the whole scene. And I was like, okay, I'll try that. And then he's like, I'm just gonna go in for a chip and just get really angry with me. I mean, I remember him saying it was Charlie's idea.
Give me a chip. No, these are my chips. You don't get a chip.
I just started yelling at him, and I remembered an idea that I had years before when I was writing a script about Dennis and Dee going to apply for public assistance, and they go into an office they call the welfare store to get welfare. And I just thought, well, again, these people are morons. Quite possibly, if they just assign the word store to anything, then that could be used to describe pretty much any place of business. So I just said it in the moment, and Charlie laughed. And that's always the goal, is like to make your scene partner laugh. Once he did, then I couldn't stop laughing, and that was a hard scene to shoot.
Sometimes not. There's also disease. There's also disease in America and abroad. Many dogs. God damn it! I don't know how to express myself unless through anger and personal attack. I'm getting very upset!
That's a pretty, like, on the nose, sort of outside looking in, like that's very meta, what we're saying there. That a character could be both so unconscious of himself that he would only be able to express himself through anger and personal attack, and yet conscious enough of himself to recognize that, yet not change. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But we found that with Sonny, those are the kinds of things that we can get away with because the audience is in on the joke.
People will choke! People will die! Okay, Charlie, take emotion out of it.
Charlie's got a point. One of the cornerstones of Patty's Pub, a thick lime.
Yeah, don't tell me what to do!
I'm gonna put my thumb through your eye, you little bitch!
The reason I'm telling you all this is because I'm playing both sides so that I always come out on top. So, with this information, I'm gonna leverage you guys into making me the head of security at the new Patty's Pub.
I think that was around the time when we were all getting into Game of Thrones. And really just getting into like the idea of a Machiavellian undertaking where someone is thinking 4, 5, 6, 7 steps ahead in a game of chess. And we thought, wow, if these morons were put into a situation where they had to do that, they wouldn't be able to think of one step ahead, let alone the step that they were on. And then that Mac would be so stupid. So he would play both sides, but then he would tell everybody that he's playing both sides, thereby playing no sides. and losing, and yet not recognizing the fact that he was losing by even divulging that information.
I came up with a really great idea, dude.
Yeah?
I'm gonna play both sides.
Why would you tell me that?
Should I not have?
For whatever reason, I didn't necessarily think that that line would stick with people or resonate with people, but that's a meme I see a lot. I think because it sticks to politicians quite a bit, to be honest with you, where kind of trying to figure out what their position is, and it seems as though they don't have one, but they agree with this side, but they also agree with that side, so that they sort of see which side wins, and then they cover their bases. I think people can relate to that.
They're not gonna make dicks, Ian.
You give the public a shovel, they dig dicks. You give them a pen, they draw dicks. You give them some clay.
Definitely gonna sculpt dicks.
In all of our research, and we've had scores of experts and people, of game devs and people that work in the industry coming in to talk to us, they said that one issue that they deal with constantly in their games is something called TTP. And in these open world games where you can manipulate your environment, they have an acronym for something that really does happen, which is called time to penis. And it's the measurement of how long it takes for someone to take a new item that is placed into the game, and for someone out there in the world to manipulate their environment to draw a penis. And we just thought that is so stupid and so funny and so ridiculous to picture, like, people waiting for this new item just so they can be the first one. And it's oftentimes like in the seconds. It's not minutes, days, weeks, months, years. It's as soon as, say, a shovel gets put into the game and they can manipulate your environment by digging a hole, someone immediately, within 7 seconds, has already dug a penis. So we thought, wow, if we're gonna make something that seems authentic to the video game industry, we should be addressing things like that. So we did.